Yeah, there we go.
All right. Welcome to Men in Polos episode number 3. Today is Tuesday, June 24th. So Yusuf, we haven't been last time we did one of these was after game 3 of the NBA Finals. A lot has happened since then. Why don't you catch us up?
Yeah, so after game three, the Spurs were up 2 games to one, and at that point it had been two close games and then a Spurs blowout. So then after that, we didn't really know what to think. We thought that the series was going to go to 7 games, which it obviously didn't. And then it ended in 5 games, and the fourth and fifth game ended the same way the third game ended, just a Spurs blowout. Um, it was all Spurs. It was basically LeBron versus the Spurs because Wade looked old and slow. Bosh didn't look so good. And the Spurs just played great. Everyone was playing great. Guys off their bench. They were moving the ball well, and they were just a complete team. The Heat couldn't stop them defensively. So the Spurs won in 5 games. They just dominated.
Yeah, they just, yeah, it looked close and then all of a sudden the Spurs just before before anyone could change their predictions, it was over. So I think it kind of shocked everyone, but then at the end, you could definitely say the best team won. Like you said, it was just LeBron by himself at the end, which now that the NBA season is over, brings up a lot of interesting questions because all three of the Heat, LeBron, all three of the key Heat players, LeBron, Wade, and Chris Bosh, have player options in their contract to opt out this year. And the big news today was that LeBron opted out of his contract. So, what do you think about that?
Well, okay, so he could have opted out because he wants to restructure his deal. I don't know if I see him taking less money than he's already taking now because he already took a pay cut. But if he is going to re-sign with the Heat, and if Wade and Bosh are going to re-sign with the Heat, which they're going to have to if they want to make the most money, then the rest of the players that they can add, they're not going to have much money to add any other players. And that has been their problem. They're relying on three players. Wade and Bosh are kind of on a decline. LeBron's still in his prime. But if LeBron opts out, which he did, then the question is he going to try to restructure his deal with the Heat? Is he going to re-sign where he can make the most money? Or is he going to leave? Um, from what I'm hearing so far, it sounds like he's going to come back for one more year, but I don't know. I mean, he can join another team, and I think if he does join another team, he can go to a team with better players.
Yeah, and I think all like as soon as the news broke this morning, everyone's like, "Oh my God, what's LeBron gonna do?" I don't think it means that he's gonna leave, but I did find it interesting that he it seemed like he'd made this decision himself. It wasn't in collaboration with Wade and Bosch. So this to me seemed more of like okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Now it's up to you, Pat Riley, to figure out how to put in a better team around me in Miami. I think he wants to come and play in Miami again, but I think above everything else, if it's the same squad next year, I don't think he's going to come back. Like if it's the same players as it was in this finals, if the Heat don't make any upgrade, I'm not saying they have to get like a Melo or Kevin Love or anything, but as long as like someone like Kyle Lowry is out there, like there's other free agents like Gortat is a free agent, Trevor Ariza is a free agent, even like small pieces that will help build that team is going to tell LeBron like okay, like they're trying to put a better team in place. Now I think this puts the pressure on Wade and Bosch to, basically if Wade stays in his contract, the Heat won't have much flexibility to do anything.
Yeah, I think if anyone has to take a pay cut, it's Wade, and he has to understand that if he wants to continue to win championships or contend, he's declining right now. And I mean, they tried resting him last year. I think he only played in like 55 games, and he still didn't have enough energy. He still looked tired in the finals. He's just breaking down. So if they're going to be taking pay cuts, he has to do that. But it's not easy for anyone because this is probably his last big contract. And does he want to take a pay cut? I don't think so. But I thought it was interesting that they had until I think the 30th to opt out, and Wade and Bosh haven't made their decisions, but LeBron did it. So like you said, it's like he's putting the onus on Pat Riley. Like what are you going to do? How are you going to improve the team?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk about how he's also some analysts are saying that this is also giving other teams opportunities to figure out what they want to do in the offseason. Some teams that may have thought that they don't have a shot at LeBron, all of a sudden are like, oh my God, LeBron's a unrestricted free agent right now. Let's clear some space, bring some players in, make him an offer. So I think, it gives a lot of people the possibility. The thing with Wade, I actually think it's better for him to opt out and try to sign a more long-term deal with the Heat, because I don't think he's getting. Not only is he not going to get the 2-year 40 that's left anywhere else, I don't think he's going to get even what the Heat can offer to him. Maybe like a 4-year, $50 million, something longer term, which will, maybe be 10 to 15 million a year, but still the full value of the contract is worth a lot. I think he'll get the most money with the Heat, and I think after this 2 years are over, if he, let's say he opts in, after the 2 years are over, I think he's going to have a lot of trouble getting a good second contract. So I think he has to, for his sake, has to think long term also, and think like, okay, like I'm going to, when there aren't many other places where you can go and take half the season off because he has LeBron,
Right.
and then play the second half of the season and come back to the playoffs. So I think from Wade's point of view, it's better for him to opt out and try to get a more of a long-term deal with less per year.
Yeah, so you think he should restructure his deal? I mean, like opt out right now so he can get a longer contract? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I saw there's apparently this rule in the NBA where if you're over 34 or 35, you can't get more than a 3-year contract. So
Really? Wow, never heard of that.
yeah, but it was surprising. So that's why Kobe's getting like a 2-year deal now, things like that. So
Oh yeah.
this is his last shot to get a long-term deal.
I think it would be better for LeBron, and I know people are gonna, criticize him if he leaves the Heat. But right now, like people think, oh yeah, he has Wade and Bosh, he has two other like Hall of Fame type players. With the Cavs, he didn't have that. But last year, he was basically carrying the Heat, or this past year, he was carrying the Heat again. So right now, I think with Wade and Bosh, even if they add a kind of a supporting cast, he's still shouldering a huge burden. I think if he leaves, like maybe for the Cavs, if the Clippers can open up money for him, the Bulls, I think he'll have a better chance to win, and he doesn't have to carry such a burden like he is with the Heat right now. So, I mean, I think he should definitely explore his options. He can still re-sign with the Heat, but I mean, if I was him, I would definitely consider other teams.
Yeah, if I was him, I would too. And it's kind of ironic that now the Cavaliers look like a pretty good option where the place he left. But I think
Yeah,
Dan Gilbert has to do some serious groveling and sucking up to LeBron to kind of mend the bridges that he had burnt in the past. But I don't know. It seems like to me, it seems like I don't know if LeBron wants to be seen as the guy who just hops around place to place. But at the end of the day, he still wants to win. And just seeing him play in that series, you can tell from his body language, he's like, what else can I do here? I'm playing, he's getting older. He's playing tons of minutes through the entire season. And if you take LeBron off of that team, the Heat are they're fighting for an 8th seed probably in the East.
yeah. I mean, he doesn't want to be seen as a guy who hops from team to team because he got criticized when he left the Cavs. But think about that. He got criticized, he left, and he won championships. So even though he left his hometown and he did something that hurt him in fans' eyes or the media's eyes, it ended up being better for him, and people forgot about it. People still think about the decision, but it doesn't matter because he won championships. So, I mean, I think, he can do the same thing if he leaves.
Yeah, I think he's probably at a point where now he knows that everything he does, he's going to get criticized for. If he opts out, leaves, he's seen as someone who leaves. Pat Riley calling him out, being be tough, whatever. If he opts in, he's not going to win many championships until he's going to give up that little the next 3-4 years, and then later on he's going to be like, oh, he only won 2, he lost 2 finals. he's not on the same level as a Jordan or whatever. So whatever LeBron opts to do, he's going to get criticized for it. He's probably gotten used to it and just makes his decision without thinking about that. So I think for now he's just thinking like, what's going to be best for me? Where am I going to be able to have the best chance to win a title without having to, run myself into the ground, and then also wherever his family wants to be.
Yeah, and even Pat
So
Riley,
give it,
like, a, they had
yeah.
the post season press conference, and he was saying, like, if you run across a bump in the road, are you going to give up or are you going to keep going? And he was kind of talking to LeBron and Wade and Bosh, like, are you guys just going to walk away from this now just because we didn't win the championship? Like, he's really trying to pressure them, and that's a smart move by him. He knows what he's doing, but,
But
like,
it's not
that's
a
for the
bump in the road. It's like if you're like driving on the highway and it says construction next to 50 miles. That's what this is. Like
yeah.
it's not a bump in the road. It's like you can like if you're Pat Riley, you can't like I know it was a very like savvy move on his part, but
Yeah.
I LeBron's smarter than that to get wrapped up in that. So I mean if you're looking at LeBron, where do you think he should go, and where do you think is the most likely place that can land him?
Okay, I think most likely he returns to the Heat just because he's been there the last 4 years. They have been to four finals in a row, and he can still make the most money going back to the Heat. He's established his family there. There's a lot of destinations for him. I know the Clippers, they have to open up cap space for him, but if they trade DeAndre Jordan and then they don't re-sign their free agents right now, they can actually open up enough money to sign him for, I think, close to the max. So then you have Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, LeBron James, plus he's in LA and he wants to be, in a big market. So I think that is a possible destination for him. He can go back to the Cavs, Kyrie, Anthony Bennett. I mean, I know he didn't play much last year, but I think he's going to be good in the future. If they can sign another guy, that's another place he can go.
And their
Chicago,
first
I think Chicago. What were you going to say?
and their number one pick.
Oh yeah, and they get the number one pick this year, and I think they'll draft not Wiggins, Jabari Parker probably because Embiid is hurt, so that's a good core moving forward. He could go to Chicago still. I thought he was going to sign there in 2010, but they have Rose, they have Noah. They got to get rid of, I think, Butler, Gibson. They're two picks, but if you have a Rose, Noah, LeBron core going forward, I think that's pretty good. So those are a couple of destinations.
Yeah. You think they could have to get rid of Butler and Gibson? I mean,
It might be just one or the other.
the big one there is, what's eating up the Bulls is freaking Boozer's contract, but
Well, they can amnesty him, so he'll be off the books.
yeah, so they're gonna amnesty him, he'll be off, and then yeah, they probably have to make some space for him. I think the Bulls are the most appealing option for LeBron. Like that's the place that has the players, it has a coach.
Right.
Cleveland has the players, Cleveland has the young players, but Cleveland doesn't have a coach, and like I don't unless they go hire Mark Jackson. I think that's going to be a big factor for him. Once again, the Clippers are there, but I think that it will be harder for the Clippers to make the space to get LeBron.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think he's going to end up. I think he will end up staying in Miami, but I probably, I believe that less and less
Yeah.
now. So I think that's what's gonna end up happening, and Pat Riley will end up signing someone. The other thing is, I heard recently that the Lakers will have enough cap space to be able to sign both LeBron and Melo. They're one of the few teams who have the money. I mean, Gasol's gonna be gone. I think the only people left on the contracts are Kobe and Nash and someone else. So that's an interesting option. I don't know if that's gonna happen,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it's like
I think the Lakers are always in the running for a big free agent. And yeah, it is just Kobe and I think Nash. So then you have Kobe, you have Nash who's old, but then you have Melo and LeBron on top of that.
and the
I don't know
seventh.
if that's actually going to happen, but it's
Yeah, but I
possible.
think I would have count them out, but like they would be. they would have a good core to win now. Like whereas Cleveland is a little bit more of a project. Chicago is a win now team. So
Hmm.
I think at the end of the day, Chicago is the best option for him. I feel like Bulls have been targeting Melo this whole time, but I mean we should be targeting LeBron. Like why just stop at Melo? So I think those are that's options for him. And really, the thing about LeBron is he's in the position where he just gets to pick. It's not contingent upon who offers him the most money. It's just going to be where he wants to play, and he thinks he's going to have the best chance to win. And I think he wants it to be the Heat. So I eventually think he's going to end up with the Heat.
Right, and he gets to choose, but the other thing is like, so he wants to sign for the max, but say he makes 14 million instead of 16 million, it's not as big of a deal because he makes so much money off of like commercials and other things that like that doesn't matter so much. He's gonna make his money no matter what. Like you said, he's gonna get to choose where he wants to go. I think Houston is another possibility. They're always looking to land a big free agent. The problem with that is Dwight Howard kind of clogs the middle, and you have to dump it down to him. So I don't know if that would work out, but still, I think if you have Harden, Howard, and LeBron, obviously that's a dominant team. And the Hawks are even another team that can clear cap space for him. I don't know if he wants to play for Atlanta. They would have Teague, Horford, um, and LeBron there. So and then Paul Millsap. So he has a lot. There's a lot, and the Suns are another possibility too. So there are a lot of teams that can clear the cap space for him. It just depends on where he wants to go, and wherever he goes, they automatically become a championship contender. You just have to put a couple of good pieces around him, and they're a contender. But I think he should go somewhere if he's not going to re-sign with the Heat, somewhere where he's not going to have to shoulder such a big burden.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and yeah, wherever he goes, he's a championship contender, and I think that's one of the reasons why someone like Melo, like all these reports come out where they want to play together. I mean,
Yeah.
for LeBron, the benefit of that is there's someone who plays his position. They can play together at the same time, but then when LeBron comes off the court, it's not a huge dip. Melo can run that offense, and for Melo, he gets to play with LeBron. I mean, everyone in the league wants to play with LeBron. So that's one of the. I don't think that sounds like a very far-fetched idea that Melo and LeBron playing together, but I think it's from what happened, a few years ago with LeBron and Wade and Bosh teaming up. I don't see this as I see this as something that could happen where LeBron and Melo just decide to go somewhere together.
Yeah, and for that to happen, a team has to have enough cap space to sign two max guys, which I think the Lakers are like one of the only teams that can do that. But if you have those guys together, the thing with Melo is he's kind of like an isolation player. He doesn't move the ball so much. So I don't know how that would work. Like, is it going to be kind of like a Durant Westbrook situation where you have them taking turns taking shots? But I think if he joins like LeBron, whoever joins LeBron, they can learn to play with him. I think you can learn to work that out. That's what people thought was going to happen when Wade, Bosh, and LeBron signed together, and they ended up working out. So I think Melo and LeBron playing together would work out.
Or the other possibility is Melo going to the Heat and all four of them taking a pay cut.
Oh yeah.
Because the Heat don't have if those two opt out, the only person the Heat's salary right now, if Wade and Bosh opt out, is $2 million to Cole. I think that's all that's on the books right now. So
Yeah,
it
and I
would
think they
be
owe like 4.6 to Haslam, but they're thinking about buying out his contract.
yeah. So they would have all the cap space, but then they want to be able to bring back they want to bring back all three of their guys and then also add some pieces. So, I mean, yeah, the Lakers, the Heat, but I think I think it would work. Like we thought that LeBron, Wade, and Bosh wouldn't work, and that ended up working. I think late game situations, I definitely think LeBron's gonna have the ball in his hand, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Melo is definitely he's not the best superstar. He's definitely an ISO player. He doesn't play defense, but he rebounds the ball. He'll add some. He'll be able to. He's a matchup sniper at the four. He would be better served playing the four than LeBron playing the four. So I think And when you're there, from Melo's perspective, if you're there with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, or with LeBron even, you know who the main guy is. It's going to be LeBron. He's the one with the rings. He's the best player in the league. It's going to be him. So from Melo's perspective, if you're trying to win a ring, you're going to take a backseat.
Yeah, I think Melo, I mean, he's a superstar, but I think him being the second best player on your team, you have a pretty good team.
Yeah,
And in yeah, in late game situations, Melo has actually been really good. Like he's the guy to go to. So I don't know how that would work if they want to go to Melo or not, because he can, post up, he can create his own shot. The other thing about Melo is he hasn't been really great defensively. I think if he tries, he would be, but he just doesn't put the effort in. So if Melo went to a team like the Bulls where Thibodeau was coaching him, I think that he would definitely step up his rebounding. I mean, I think you need a coach that's going to motivate you to play defense. I think any player can play defense, but if you have the right coach and the right system that's motivating you, and Melo went to that system, I think he would be fine defensively. I don't think that would hurt him.
yeah. If I was Melo, I would be booking a ticket to Chicago, and I would be, talking to him as much as possible. That's where I would want to be because I don't. The Bulls wouldn't have to, would they have to clear out room for him as much as would they need to get rid of Gibson and Butler for him?
So I think they would have to amnesty Boozer. They'd have to trade the 16 and 19 pick. They wouldn't be able to bring in Mirotic over, which they want to do, and they have to get rid of either one of Butler or Gibson. They might be able to keep both, but I don't know exactly how it's going to work. But if they can get rid of one, um, they
I think
might get rid
they
of
can.
Butler.
I've been hearing they can keep both, and the idea of a Rose, Butler, Melo, Gibson, Noah starting lineup. That's the best starting
Wow.
lineup in the league. That's the
Yeah,
best starting lineup in the league. That would instantly become the best starting lineup in the league. And with the Bulls, you can hide Noah. I mean, Melo on defense. He doesn't need to be the defensive stopper on that team because you have Noah, who's going to be the guy. He's going to be the guy directly. You have Tibbs, who's a great coach. Who will figure out how to fit Melo into that system. And really, Melo is what Chicago needs the most, which is someone other than Rose who can have the ball in his hand and make something out of nothing. That's what, that. That's ideal. And people are saying, Kevin Love Chicago. I think Melo is a better option than Kevin Love in Chicago. And if that can happen, Bulls are an instant championship team, good contender.
yeah. If that happens, I think they automatically win the East. I don't think the Heat would be able to stop
Yeah,
that team. I also think Melo is a better fit for Chicago than Love is because the Bulls already have Gibson signed to like a long-term deal at the 4. So then what
yeah,
do you do with Gibson if you have Love? Melo would fit in perfectly because the Bulls got rid of Dang, so they have an opening at the 3, and they would be a really strong team. Melo was talking about it the other day. He loses a lot of money unless they do a sign and trade where he re-signs with the Knicks and then he's traded to the Bulls. If he just opts out if he's just an unrestricted free agent, he signs with the Bulls, he loses a lot of money, and that's one of the reasons he might want to stay with the Knicks because he would make more. And he was talking about how his kids live there and stuff like that, and he doesn't want to move them. But for his legacy, I mean, he's been playing for as long as LeBron. LeBron's won 4 MVPs, 3 championships. He's been to a bunch of finals. If Melo wants to start winning, I think he should definitely consider going to the Bulls for sure.
yeah. And I think the other thing that's important for Melo is being in a place that matters. That's why he wanted, one of the reasons he got out of Denver and coming to Chicago is, that's a good thing. You're not going to get New York everywhere, but Chicago is another big town, great
Yep.
basketball history. So that's you wouldn't see Melo trying to go to Indiana or something. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so
And
it's
I think
I think it's a
And we talked about that. It's like for whatever reason, Chicago hasn't gotten any big free agents. Maybe because it's a cold weather city, but it's still a big town. You can still market yourself there. There's no reason not to come, and you can still live wherever you want in the off season. You're not like restricted just being in Chicago.
if the Bulls don't get a good free agent this off season, that entire front office needs to be fired. There's
Yeah,
no reason there's no reason. The Bulls are such a if you want to win, they're the best. They're one of the most appealing places to go. You got a good coach. You got a a great defensive center who's going to cover up all your mistakes. You have
Right.
hopefully an explosive point guard who's the only person to win MVP other than LeBron James and like the other than Durant in the past like 6 years. So that's the ideal place to be.
Yeah, and Thibodeau has actually been talking to me. He's trying. You're not allowed to talk to free agents, but he's been trying to through back channels reach Melo. Noah's been trying to reach out to Melo. Rose, before he said he doesn't try to attract free agents, but he has also been trying to reach out to Melo. So they're trying as hard as they can to get him. And Gar Forman and John Paxson, they said that they were going to do whatever they could to make a big move to improve this team because their window is kind of shutting. I mean, Rose has been injured the last 2 years. Noah's 30, I think, and then Gibson's 29. So they want to win now, and they're putting all their chips on the table. They're going to do whatever they can. If it's for right now, they're chasing Melo, and if they can't get Melo, they're going to do what they can to try to get Kevin Love.
So the other thing I heard today was something about those trying to offer Gibson, Tony Snell at both 16 and 19 for Kevin Love. And I don't like the thing with Kevin Love. Like, he's a great player, but I think you're gonna have to give up so much to get him because I don't think that it doesn't seem like Flip Saunders wants to trade Love right now. So he's going to ask for a ton of assets in return. So you're gonna have to give up a lot to get Love, and the Bulls can do that. The Bulls can give up the two-pay. They can give up Gibson. They can give up I think the other thing was like the rights to what's his name, Mirotic.
Mirotic, yeah.
So like they can do that, and it would help. But I think Gibson is a guy you try to keep, and regardless of whatever team you have, he's the type of guy who belongs. You need that type of guy to win a championship.
Right, and the thing with Love is he's also deficient defensively. He's not a big guy. He doesn't have a big wingspan. He's not very quick. He's not a great athlete, so he's kind of a minus defensively. And I think at the 4 and 5 spot, those are where you want strong defenders. You have Gibson there already. The advantage about having Love, though, is that he's a stretch 4, and especially in today's game where shooting is really important, it's really advantageous to have a power forward who can step out and shoot the 3. So, I mean, I think that helps. But the Bulls already have Gibson. Like you said, they have to give up Mirotic. They have to give up 16-19. They have to give up Snell. I still think that's worth it to get a superstar, and you can work your way around it. But I think Melo is the better fit.
Here's the thing with Love, though. I have to question some of his intangibles. Like, okay, he hasn't been to a single playoffs. I know he had a crappy team, whatever, but he hasn't been to the playoffs in his career.
Right.
Like he's openly, he's still got a year left on his contract, and he's openly, just said, I don't want to stay. I'm gonna opt out, so trade me. He's demanding and it just doesn't he's this very skilled player. He's he's a big matchup nightmare. He can shoot the 3. He rebounds like a monster. Doesn't play defense really well, but there's something to be said about that mental aspect of a player. That's it just doesn't seem like he has made the best of his opportunity there. So I don't know.
I was reading earlier where the T-Wolves blew a lot of late leads, like they were number 1 in the NBA in blowing late leads, and part of that. Love was a good player down the stretch of games offensively, but defensively they gave up a bunch of transition baskets. They turned it over a lot. And if you're going to be the number 1 guy on your team, you can't allow that to happen. So that's kind of like this intangible. I mean, you look at Love's stats, scores 20 points a game, 12 rebounds. He's a good passer. But if you're blowing leads late in the game, I think part of that has to do with your number 1 guy. I mean, he has to play better defensively. And if you have a guy like a LeBron or, a Melo or whatever, that doesn't happen as much. Also, the thing is, like you said, his first 2 years. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think that's the difference between Love and Melo. Melo can be the number 1 guy on that team and still, take you to the playoffs. He didn't do it this year, but he can do it. He can carry you. But Love just doesn't seem like that type of player. And I think that's somewhat, granted, both of these guys will end up being. You can't win a championship. Both of these guys as a number one player, they need to be the number two or number three player on the team. But
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had to pick, I'd rather have someone who can, for stretches of the game, just put the team on his back, and for games in the middle of the season, just put the team on his back and just take them. I
Yeah,
think
and
Melo does that.
I think with Love, it has been a little bit unfair. He hasn't made the playoffs in 6 seasons, but his first 2 years, he was a backup. His third year, they had a really bad roster. And then a couple of years later, Rubio got hurt for the season. So this was really their first opportunity. But they had a good enough team to go to at least the playoffs. I mean, that's only top 8 teams. I know the West was tough, but you should, if you're one of the best players in the league, that's what you got to do. But if he goes to another system, I think he would definitely really improve the team just because he'll have better players around him.
All right.
So one interesting thing is the Warriors and the T-Wolves actually almost had a deal, but the Warriors weren't willing to give up Klay Thompson. If they gave up Klay Thompson and it's still in the works, they could have gotten Kevin Love. But Klay Thompson's a really good shooter. He's a solid defender, and they didn't want to give him up. So I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah, so here's the deal on the table. I think was Kevin Love and Kevin Martin for Klay Thompson, David Lee, and some others.
Mm-hmm.
After that trade, I was trying to figure out like which team ends up, what's the difference for both teams.
Yeah.
And Kevin Martin is kind of whatever. He's not going to do much. But Thompson's really good. Kevin Love is really good. Klay Thompson has a longer career ahead of him, so he's going to be only keep on improving. But now you're Golden State. You're looking at Curry and Kevin Love. Can you win a championship with that? I don't think so. I don't think you can.
Yeah, me neither. I don't think you gain that much from that. I mean, you still have Iguodala. I don't know if they'd have to give up Harrison Barnes. They'd still have Bogut. And the other thing about Thompson is the reason they don't want to give him up, it's not that he's a great player, but he fits in that system. Him and Curry playing together, they need that two guard, so he fits in that system. I think that's why they're hesitant to give him up. Obviously, Klay Thompson isn't as good of a player as Kevin Love is, but he fits that system. He can shoot like Kevin Love can. And I think for the Warriors, you have to make the move if you can. It doesn't automatically put you in championship contention, but you have to keep moving forward. Not every team can win a championship. You just have to go out there and improve your team. So if it is going to be giving up Klay Thompson and taking back Kevin Martin's contract, taking back other bad contracts, but getting Kevin Love, I mean, now you have Curry and Love running that pick and roll. I think they'd be – and the Warriors weren't great offensively last season. Part of it was because they couldn't spread the floor with their bigs. So with Kevin Love, you could do that because you have Bogut taking up the middle. So I think, I think it'd be a good trade for them.
Yeah, I think those are the offers on the table. I guess we've talked about most of the big cities. The other one that you touched upon a little bit was Houston, and there was talk about Houston trying to go after Melo, and I think it's appealing, but I don't think it's as good as Houston in general will be a good
right
for any place because a lot of people want to go play in Texas. They have two good players. Yeah. I don't think it's as good a fit as the Bulls. So I'd like to see them trying to do something, but I don't think they'll be able to land any of the big three.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they'd have to clear out Parsons. Like you said, you want to play in Texas because they have no state taxes. And no matter who else they get rid of, you have a Howard, Harden, player X core. Like, you have three good players, and Houston's always trying to get, like, superstars. That's what they did. A lot of people didn't think they were going to be able to get Harden. Nobody thought OKC would give him up, but they did. So Houston's a possibility. Dallas even, I think, is always a possibility. I know Bosch, if he opts out, he can go there. That's his hometown. They're always trying to get superstars. And then there's smaller teams like Atlanta and Cleveland, and there's a lot in Phoenix that are clearing cap room. Those cities don't get as much recognition because they're not cities like Chicago, New York, and LA, but they have the cap room, so it's possible for any of these free agents to go there.
Yeah, and I think apart from the top, 3-4 free agents, there's other players that are going into free agency. They're going to be cheaper, but they're going to make good impact on good teams that just need that missing piece. Someone like a Kyle Lowry, he would fit in perfectly with Miami. He would fit
Right.
great Indiana. All
Yep.
these places that need a tough point guard who can hold the ball, who plays defense. You know, so I don't know if he wants to stay in Toronto or not, or if he wants to go to a place that he can make more money and also win better. Other free agents are like Gortat's a free agent, but I think Washington's going to try to really take care of him. Gortat
Yeah.
and Ariza, they're going to try to keep that core together, but who knows? Someone might be able to, a big guy who can rebound and score a little bit. That's a valuable commodity. So guys like that. Then Greg Monroe is another guy who's going to be a free agent. I think there's these like little free agents that Paul Gasol is going to be a free agent.
Yep.
Lesser free agents that can really teams that are on the cusp and try to sign these guys and just try to make it over the hump. And I think a team like that, I don't know how much space the Thunder have, but I think they really need to make some moves. They need to add some pieces to their team because Scott Brooks needs to change how he coaches, or they need to add some more pieces to that team.
Yep, I think the Thunder are kind of in the Heat situation where they have 2 or 3 great players and then they don't have anyone else. They don't have a complete team. And I know Durant and Westbrook are clogging up, and Ibaka are clogging up their cap space. But if they can add somebody else, like one of those mid-tier free agents, like you said, like a Monroe or a Lowry or whatever, obviously the Thunder can't add those guys. But we haven't been talking really about those guys, and those guys are often the ones that make a difference. I mean, yeah, the superstars are the superstars, but you need those complementary players. I mean, look at the Spurs. Nobody was talking about Boris Diaw or Patty Mills or anything, but those are the guys they signed because they knew they can surround a good core with those guys, and that builds a real team. So, yeah, the superstars are going to go where they're going to go, but for those teams on the cusp, like even if the Bulls don't get Melo or Love, they still come back with a starting lineup of Rose, Butler, Mirotic, Gibson, and Noah, and then they can add depth because they have a lot of money left over. So if they can add a guy that is a kind of a mid-tier free agent, then that's going to help them a lot because they're going to have depth and they can still have a good team. So I think not just the big free agents.
Yeah, I think this is a really good free agent class. If a team whiffs on one of the big ones, they don't have to. They can try to go up for the second tier, and they'll still be able to improve their teams. There's a lot of teams that we saw this year. Going into the year, you were like, okay, you thought Miami's going to win the East, that's what happened, and you thought from the West was wide open, and that's kind of what happened. But now you see that the East is much more wide open than people thought it would be. Miami's not a lock to win the East anymore. Even in the West, the Spurs are the best team, but Thunder have always been a matchup problem to them. They can beat them. We saw the Clippers are taking steps. The Warriors. So there's a lot of teams that are gonna come up and become a lot better than anyone expected them to be next year. So for those teams to add just one little piece here, like one shooter here, one big guy there, that can make a big difference. So I think it's gonna be really. This is actually I think this is gonna be more exciting than what happened. Yeah, this is gonna end up being more exciting than the NBA Finals itself.
Yeah, it's like the NBA Finals end, but then you have like free agency now, and you can follow that. I think if we look at like the East-West dynamic, though, the East is still way weaker than the West. So if you go to a team like Chicago, you automatically have a great chance to make the finals right there, no matter who they get. So I think like that's another thing for free agents to look at. It's like, where can I go? Where do I have an easier path to go to make the finals or win a championship?
Yeah, the Bulls, man, we just they haven't been able to get back to the last 2 years, but this, like, whenever they're at full strength, they're going to be competitive, and they're going to compete for the East. So I think next year, hopefully Indiana tries to improve. Bulls will be healthy. Heat, who knows what's going to happen with the Heat, but it's going to be more competitive, the East at least. I mean, competitive in the sense that they'll still be worse than the West, but they'll be a bit more. Within the East itself, there'll be a bit more. So I think that's what's it's going to be exciting. It's free agency. The draft is later this week. You want to do it
Thursday?
Thursday, yeah. You want to do a quick top 5? Who do you think is going to go?
Yeah, sure. So I think 1, Cavs have that pick. I think they were gonna go after Embiid, but since he's out for 6 or 7 months, I think they're gonna take Jabari Parker. What do you think?
I think they're going to take Wiggins. It's like, bro, I've heard that Parker wants to play in Milwaukee more. Like, he's not adamant about it. He's not going to be like, if the Cavs take him, that, oh, I don't want to play there. Um,
Mhm.
I think both players, they have equally bright future. It's just that Parker is going to have a stronger start than Wiggins.
Right,
And
right.
I think from what I've been hearing is that the Cavs want Wiggins, but
Really? Okay.
they know that the Bucks want Parker, so they're trying to that this whole thing might be a smoke screen that they're wanting to take Parker instead of Wiggins.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I think it's gonna go Wiggins 1, Parker 2. Regardless, those two will be the first two taken.
Yeah, from what I've heard, Parker is more like the more solid NBA ready guy, and Wiggins is more kind of like the project, or he has more raw potential. Like Parker is supposed to be a guy that can like score 20 points right away and is going to be a solid guy for 10 years. And so is Wiggins, but just not as much. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be those guys 1 and 2 because Embiid is hurt.
All right, 3 at Philly. I think they take Exum.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be that backcourt of Exum and MCW. That's gonna be pretty. I think they'll be one of the toughest backcourts to deal with, and they're both long and lanky. They can handle the ball, so it's very difficult. Hopefully, defensively, they're big enough defensively to not get pushed around. They're not great defenders, but hopefully their size will help them out.
Right, and I've even heard that it's a possibility that they take Embiid because the Sixers just keep trying to bottom out, and that's the same thing they did with Noel last year. So you take Embiid, you let him sit for the season, you get even worse, and then you hoard more draft picks. That's a possibility, but if they don't want to do that again, then I think they take Exum too.
Yeah.
And then
4.
who else after this?
The Magic. I don't know. So I've been hearing so Embiid. I don't know how much I I would want to take him. Like, why would you? Yeah, he broke his foot, but he's not like a scrub all of a sudden. It's a
Yeah,
risk, I understand, but he's gonna. I think without that, he's the best prospect in the draft. So I don't know. I don't think the Magic would take him. It seems like what I'm hearing is like the Magic. They don't want to. It's like it's a new GM. I don't think he really wants to take a huge risk. And from
hmm
what I've been hearing, it seems like he could drop as far as the Celtics at
yep.
6. So it's maybe that's where he goes. I would love it if he drops to the Lakers at 7 and the Lakers take him. And I know, like, it's not going to be like but I think he has a really good future. So I think at 4, 5, and 6, that's really like where you get into like who are the players? Noah Vonleh. All of a sudden
Noah
he's up
Vonleh,
there.
yep.
I don't think he deserves to
Julius
be
Randle,
before.
Marcus Smart,
Marcus Smart, Aaron Gordon.
Aaron
So
Gordon. I think he's going to be good.
yeah, I don't think Vonleh is going to be that much of a. I think he's going to get picked high, but I think he has the most bust potential out of the guys in the draft.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys that's just like a project. Like he's like long, he's gonna be able to defend, but is he gonna like work out as a long-term guy, or is he just gonna be a guy with a lot of potential? But I hadn't even heard of him, and now he's supposed to be going high, and then Randall's right there with him.
Yeah, so right now I think so. Vonleh, Gordon, Smart, Randall, Embiid. Those will be 4 through 7, 4 through 8. Those guys.
Yep, and then you get into guys like Gordon, Doug McDermott, who's a shooter, and Zach
You were
Levine,
gonna
who's
say
a
Gordon
shooter.
Hayward, weren't you?
What?
You were gonna say Gordon Hayward, weren't you?
Yeah, I almost said Gordon Hayward. I meant Aaron Gordon.
Yeah, but yeah, Dougie McBuckets. I think he's gonna be like a little Kyle Korver type player. So I think this is a deep draft. Even if the Bulls keep their pick at 16 and or 19, they might be able to get some pieces that they can use. So hopefully, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think just one more interesting thing is with the draft, not only who's going to get selected, but draft day trades. Because if there's teams that are looking to clear space for a star, they might trade their picks to do that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who's keeping their picks, who's moving up and down to create room for a star.
Yeah, dude. I mean, if I was Cleveland, I'd be shopping that pick. I mean, why not? Why not try to see what trade you can get from it? You're gonna be able to get a really, really good offer from it. So why
Right.
not? Like, what if you dangle it to Minnesota in order to try to get Kevin Love? That those are options, and you don't have to. At the end of the day, they can just decide, no, screw it, we're just going to take the draft. But if I don't think they have been. At least it doesn't sound like they've been shopping it around as much as they can.
No, and that's only because this draft is so strong that teams aren't looking to just trade picks that
Yeah.
easily because these guys can end up being the next Kevin Loves and the Melos or whatever, and they're young. But I mean, you always have that option on the table, and since it is a strong draft, I think teams will be willing to give up good players to get picks.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Draft
we'll see.
Thursday. Pod was today. I think we'll try to come back. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's the draft. There's the World Cup. We'll try to
Yep,
come back and talk about that stuff next couple episodes. You got
yep.
anything
For
else?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right. See you guys later. Keep watching.
Yeah,
Adios.
see ya.
Bye.